Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Representatives: BJ Penn, Royce Gracie, and Charles Oliveira. Bronze: BJ Penn. BJ Penn started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his teens in Hawaii and advanced faster than almost anyone in the sport, earning his black belt in a little over 3 years and becoming the first American to win a BJJ world title. That early intensive training built a fundamentals-driven style centered on posture breaking, hip angles, and flexible guard work that shut down passes before they even developed. In MMA, those habits showed up everywhere: smooth guard transitions, clean back takes during scrambles, and steady, controlled, positional advancement. His 7 submission wins came from pure, high-percentage jiu-jitsu, not athletic shortcuts. Penn earns the bronze because he's one of the clearest examples of how a deep technical foundation in BJJ can directly control and finish UFC-level fights. Silver: Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie grew up immersed in jiu-jitsu from childhood, training under the Gracie family system that had been developed, tested, and refined for decades in Brazil. By the time he entered the UFC, he had already spent his entire life practicing the core mechanics of traditional BJJ: closed guard retention, posture breaking, clinch entries, and incremental positional advancement. That lifelong training is what allowed him to walk into UFC 1 and submit 3 opponents in a single night using nothing but pure technique. He showed the world that leverage, frames, and energy-efficient mechanics could neutralize fighters who were bigger, stronger, and more athletic. Every element of his game, controlling reactions, advancing only when secure, and finishing with the simplest available submission, came directly from years of drilling the same fundamentals. Gracie earns the silver because he proved, on a global stage, that lifelong jiu-jitsu training wasn't just effective, it was essential. He forced every future fighter to understand the ground game just to survive. Gold: Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira earns the gold medal because he represents the fully evolved form of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in modern MMA. He holds the UFC record for 16 submission wins, and his style is built around non-stop offense, scrambles, chain attacks, and immediate pressure rather than slow, methodical setups. One of the clearest signs of his impact is how fighters actively avoid entering his guard. Even when they drop him with strikes, they hesitate to follow him to the mat because they know that a dominant punching position against most fighters becomes a liability against Oliveira. His guard is an attack platform: triangles, arm bars, hip-high sweeps, and back-take triggers all firing the moment someone commits. Combine that with his devastating front choke game, seatbelt control, and relentless hand fighting on the back, and you get a style that forces opponents to choose between giving him space or giving him their neck. His performances against Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje show how modern BJJ can overwhelm even elite strikers. Oliveira isn't just using jiu-jitsu, he's showing its peak form in today's UFC, which is why he's the gold medal representative. Wrestling. Representatives: Henry Cejudo, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Daniel Cormier. Wrestling. Bronze: Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo began wrestling at 4 years old and spent his entire youth competing at the highest levels, eventually becoming an Olympic gold medalist, the peak of the sport. That lifelong foundation built the habits that define his MMA wrestling: clean level changes, precise timing, and chain wrestling drilled for decades. When he moved into the UFC, he adapted those freestyle skills into cage wrestling, using underhooks, foot sweeps, and mat returns to control every position. His wins over Demetrius Johnson and Marlon Moraes showed how Olympic fundamentals translate directly into MMA success. Cejudo earns the bronze because he proved that deep, lifelong wrestling training can dictate both pace and geography inside the cage. Silver: Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib grew up training wrestling, judo, and sambo in Dagestan from the time he could walk, developing a grappling base shaped by decades of high-level Eastern European training. That lifelong immersion created the hybrid style that made him so dominant in MMA, a blend of freestyle entries, sambo throws, and relentless cage wrestling pressure. His system wasn't built on single takedowns, it was built on chains. If one shot failed, he flowed immediately into trips, mat returns, leg rides, and wrist rides until opponents simply couldn't stand anymore. Once he secured top position, his trademark cross-wrist control shut down striking completely and opened safe, high-percentage ground and pound. His performances against McGregor, Poirier, and Gaethje showed that he didn't just use wrestling, he controlled every second of the fight with it. Khabib earns the silver because he turned lifelong grappling training into the most suffocating, systematic wrestling style the UFC has ever seen. Gold: Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier started wrestling in high school and committed his life to the sport, becoming a 2-time Olympian, an Olympic team captain, and one of the most accomplished American wrestlers ever to enter MMA. That decades-long foundation built a style rooted in pure folk style and freestyle fundamentals: hand fighting, level changes, high crotch lifts, and chain attacks drilled until they were automatic. When he transitioned to the UFC, those same habits turned into one of the most complete wrestling systems in heavyweight and light heavyweight history. His clinch game, underhooks, collar ties, body locks, let him throw and control fighters far bigger than him, while his ability to blend striking and wrestling made his transitions almost impossible to read. Wins over Stipe Miocic, Anthony Johnson, and Alexander Gustafsson showed how effortlessly he could dictate where the fight took place. And now, as a coach and analyst, Cormier Cormier teaches those same fundamentals to the next generation, breaking down entries, finishes, and cage control with the same clarity he used in the cage. He earns the gold because he represents the purest, most complete translation of lifelong American wrestling into championship-level MMA success, both as a fighter and as an educator of the sport. Muay Thai. Representatives: Jose Aldo, Anderson Silva, and Edson Barboza. Bronze. Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo began training striking as a teenager in Brazil, eventually committing himself fully to Muay Thai and developing the balance, posture, and hip-driven power that define the style. Years of drilling those fundamentals shaped his MMA identity. Explosive low kicks, a tight defensive guard, and clean pivots that let him control distance and punish pressure. In the clinch, he used classic Thai frames and knees to shut down wrestlers trying to close the gap. Aldo earns the bronze because he proved that traditional Muay Thai technique, stance discipline, timing, and efficient power could dominate at the highest level of MMA. Silver. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva started training Muay Thai in Brazil as a young teenager and spent years sharpening the fundamentals: balance, weight shifting, clinch control, and precision striking that later defined his MMA career. That long technical apprenticeship is what allowed him to blend traditional Thai weapons with elite timing and deception. His Muay Thai clinch became one of the most dangerous positions in UFC history, using frames, collar ties, and perfectly timed knees to dismantle opponents like Rich Franklin. Outside the clinch, Silva used classic Thai mechanics: clean hips, sharp elbows, steady posture, but layered them with feints, rhythm changes, and angle shifts that came from decades of striking experience. He earns the silver because he showed how a lifetime of Muay Thai training, combined with tactical creativity, can turn stand-up fighting into a complete championship-level system in MMA. Gold. Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza earns the gold medal for Muay Thai because he represents the purest and most technically faithful version of Thai striking in the UFC. Unlike hybrid stylists, Barboza relies almost entirely on Muay Thai structure, stance discipline, hip rotation, and clean whip-like mechanics to generate fight-changing power. His kicking arsenal is textbook: low kicks that deaden legs, body kicks that shut down cardio, and lightning fast switch, and wheel kicks that come straight from traditional Thai sequencing. Fighters hesitate to pressure him because every step forward risks eating a kick they can't absorb. Barboza also uses classic Muay Thai defensive tools: checks, teep variations, lateral pivots, and a tight high guard to control range and pace. His highlight reel finishes against Dan Hooker, Beneil Dariush, and Terry Atim show how he punishes aggression with timing and precision rather than brawling. In terms of pure Muay Thai fundamentals, applied directly to MMA speed and movement, no one has done it more cleanly, more consistently, or more fearsomely. That's why Barboza earns the gold medal as the premier Muay Thai representative in the UFC. Boxing. Representative, bronze. Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz grew up in Stockton, where street fighting and sparring and boxing gyms were basically part of daily life, and that raw experience sat right on top of the formal boxing training he started as a teen. Those early years built the pressure-heavy, volume-first style he carried into the UFC. Long jabs, slap trap combinations, and non-stop forward pace. His reach and cardio let him throw when others slowed, while his hand fighting, from both the streets and the gym, opened clean lanes for his straight punches. Diaz earns the bronze because he proved that real boxing fundamentals, sharpened by real-world toughness, can dictate the rhythm of a fight through accuracy, pressure, and endurance. Silver. Max Holloway. Max Holloway earns the silver medal for boxing because he brought the most complete volume boxing system the UFC has ever seen. As a former featherweight champion with record-breaking striking numbers, Holloway uses pure boxing fundamentals: feints, level changes, angle cuts, and stance switches to overwhelm opponents without relying on one-shot power. His jab sets everything up, and his ability to layer combinations, body shots, uppercuts, hooks, and straight counters keeps opponents guessing from bell to bell. Holloway's real weapon is pacing. He increases output as the fight goes on, forcing opponents into defensive shells where his accuracy climbs. His performance against Calvin Kattar, where he landed at will while slipping punches mid-combination, showed how refined his boxing has become. Holloway doesn't take gold only because another fighter represents a more power-oriented, technically complete boxing style, but his precision, volume, and championship success make him the clear silver medal representative for boxing in the UFC. Gold. Dustin Poirier. Although close and highly debated between him and Max, Dustin Poirier earns the gold medal for boxing because he brings the most technically complete blend of power, precision, and defense the UFC has ever seen. As a former interim lightweight champion, Poirier's southpaw fundamentals, sharp jabs, tight crosses, check hooks, and smooth pivots let him stay in the pocket without losing defensive responsibility. A key part of that system is his unique high, shell-like guard, a compact defensive frame that absorbs shots on the forearms, funnels strikes into predictable angles, and sets up his signature counters. This guard allows him to stand directly in front of elite punchers, draw their attacks, and fire back with combinations that carry real knockout power. Poirier layers classic boxing concepts, angle cuts, body work, stance shifts, and hand traps, with subtle slips and shoulder rolls that keep him dangerous even mid-exchange. His performances against Conor McGregor and Justin Gaethje highlight how his guard, timing, and shot selection work under pressure, turning firefights into technical showcases. In terms of pure boxing applied to MMA, offense, defense, adaptability, and finishing ability, no one does it more completely, which is why Poirier earns the gold medal for boxing in the UFC. Kickboxing representatives: Mirko Cro Cop, Israel Adesanya, and Alex Pereira. Bronze: Mirko Cro Cop. Mirko Cro Cop developed his striking through years of elite K1 kickboxing, logging hundreds of rounds against world-class heavyweights before ever entering MMA. That education built a technically pure style centered on kickboxing fundamentals: balanced stance, efficient footwork, and tightly sequenced punch-to-kick combinations. His signature high kick wasn't just raw power. It came from classic Dutch-style mechanics, using straight punches to force a guard reaction, lateral steps to angle off, and a whip-like hip rotation to land clean. In MMA, that structure allowed him to control distance and punish forward pressure with precision. Cro Cop earns the bronze because he showed how a deep technical kickboxing foundation, built through years of drilling and high-level competition, translates directly into fight-ending power in the UFC. Silver: Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya spent years developing his striking through an unusually active kickboxing career, often fighting weekly across regional and international circuits, which gave him thousands of live reps in timing, distance, and shot selection. That volume of experience built his signature fundamentals: feints that test reactions, stance switches that hide kicking angles, and rhythm changes that break an opponent's timing. His defense, footwork, and countering ability come straight from classic kickboxing education: balanced posture, controlled weight transfer, and a deep understanding of how opponents commit to strikes. In the UFC, he applies those fundamentals by setting traps, drawing a step, exposing a target, and punishing it instantly with counters or calf kicks, pulled directly from traditional kickboxing sequencing. Adesanya earns the silver because he demonstrated how a long, high-level kickboxing background can create one of the most technically layered and deceptive striking systems ever used in MMA. Gold: Alex Pereira. Once again, highly debated between him and Izzy, Alex Pereira's striking is the product of more than a decade of structured, high-level kickboxing training, culminating in 2 Glory World titles, a clear marker of technical mastery. His style is built on classic Dutch fundamentals: balanced footwork, tight punching kicking combinations, and efficient weight transfer that increases power without sacrificing stability. A key example is his left hook, which works because of mechanically sound details. He uses shoulder feints to draw reactions, inside hand control to clear the guard, and a short stance adjustment that aligns his hips for maximum force. Pereira also applies kickboxing principles in sequence: calf kicks to limit mobility, body kicks to tax the guard, and step-in knees to punish forward movement. In MMA, these fundamentals remain effective because they rely on timing, angle management, and predictable defensive patterns rather than large gloves or ring-specific tactics. His finishes of Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya illustrate how disciplined kickboxing technique, developed through years of repetition, translates directly to fight-ending efficiency in the UFC. Judo representatives: Hector Lombard, Cairo Parisian, and Ronda Rousey. Bronze: Hector Lombard. Hector Lombard's foundation comes from years of elite judo training, culminating in an Olympic career built on balance, grip fighting, and explosive hip and leg throwing mechanics. Although MMA lacks the GE grips that judo traditionally relies on, Lombard and other judokas who transitioned to MMA adapted those same principles by using overhooks, underhooks, wrist control, and collar tie variations to create the same leverage points that allowed him to hit classic judo throws, hip tosses, inside trips, Kosoto-style reaps, directly from clinch positions most fighters treated as neutral. His ability to break posture, redirect momentum, and land in dominant top positions came from thousands of hours of structured judo drilling. Lombard earns the bronze because he demonstrated how core judo mechanics still function in MMA when you understand how to replace JGA grips with MMA legal tie-ups. Silver: Cairo Parisian. Cairo Parisian grew up training high-level judo and became the first UFC fighter to show that traditional judo technique could work consistently in MMA. During his run as a perennial top 10 welterweight, he used classic throws, harai goshi, uchi mata, kosoto gari, directly from overhooks and clinch ties that most opponents weren't prepared to counter. His success came from timing and body connection, closing distance, breaking posture, and redirecting momentum instead of relying on strength. Parisian also linked his throws to immediate transitions into dominant positions and submission threats, giving him a unique edge in a wrestler-heavy era where most fighters were expecting shots, not upper body attacks. He earns the silver because he proved that pure judo fundamentals could not only survive in the UFC, but serve as a reliable and effective control system against elite competition. Gold, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's style came from a lifetime in high-level judo, starting in childhood and culminating in an Olympic bronze medal, proof of her mastery of balance, timing, and upper body throws. Those decades of technical development translated directly into MMA, where her entries, hip throws, and foot sweeps worked because her fundamentals were sharper than anyone she faced. Her signature sequence, close distance, secure upper body control, execute a clean throw, and transition instantly into the armbar, was the result of thousands of hours spent drilling the same mechanics, off-balancing the opponent, rotating through the hips, and landing already positioned to isolate an arm. What set her apart was efficiency. She didn't rely on strength, she relied on timing, leverage, and seamless transitions that left opponents no chance to recover. Rousey earns the gold because she delivered the most technically polished and consistently effective use of judo the UFC has ever seen, demonstrating how a lifelong foundation in the art can produce fast, repeatable, fight-ending results. Karate. Representatives Robert Whitaker, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Lyoto Machida. Bronze, Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker began training karate as a child in Australia, developing the wide stance, linear footwork, and blitz-style entries that define traditional karate movement. Over years of training, he learned how to use range, angles, and chambered kicks to control distance and dictate engagement. When he transitioned to MMA, those same fundamentals, quick in and out movement, sudden burst attacks, and long-range kicking, became key parts of his striking system. By pairing that karate base with modern boxing and elite takedown defense, he created a hybrid style built on timing and distance management rather than pure power. Whitaker earns the bronze because he showed how early technical karate training can be adapted into an effective championship-level striking style in the UFC. Silver, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Thompson earns the silver medal for karate because he represents the purest, most technically faithful version of traditional point karate striking in MMA. Across his UFC run, he's beaten elite strikers and former champions, including Robert Whitaker, Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, and Johnny Hendricks, using classic karate mechanics, wide stances, in-and-out movement, blitz attacks, and perfectly timed intercepting counters. His side kicks, hook kicks, and straight-line entries allow him to control range with surgical precision, forcing opponents to step into his setups instead of dictating the pace themselves. Wonderboy's footwork and defensive discipline make him one of the hardest fighters to hit clean, and his ability to frustrate and outmaneuver high-level strikers has kept him at the top of the division for more than a decade. He doesn't take gold only because another fighter carried karate all the way to UFC gold, but Thompson's purity, longevity, and high-level wins make him the clear silver medal representative for karate in the UFC. Gold, Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida earns the gold medal for karate because he brought the most complete, championship-level expression of Shotokan karate into the UFC. As a former light heavyweight champion who stayed near the top for years, Machida became one of the most feared and hardest fighters to figure out. Opponents spent entire camps trying to close distance safely because every step forward risked running into his counter left straight, his front kick, or a perfectly timed knee. His bladed stance, linear footwork, and rhythm-based counters turned classic karate principles into real MMA weapons. Machida fought with exceptional intelligence, constantly shifting tempo, using feints to freeze opponents, and forcing them to overcommit before punishing their mistakes. His knockout wins over Rashad Evans, Randy Couture, and Thiago Silva proved that pure karate mechanics could dominate elite competition. With championship pedigree, elite longevity, and a style that opponents genuinely feared, Machida stands as the definitive gold medal representative for karate in the UFC. MMA representatives Demetrius Johnson, George St. Pierre, and John Jones. Bronze, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Demetrius Johnson built his skill set through years of structured training across every major discipline, striking, wrestling, and submissions, developing one of the most technically complete foundations in MMA. His game is defined by seamless transitions, striking combinations that flow directly into takedown entries, scrambles that turn into positional advances, and submissions that appear the moment an opponent gives space. Those habits come from consistent, high-repetition training focused on timing, movement, and efficiency rather than raw strength. In the UFC, that technical fluency allowed him to dominate every phase of the fight despite size and reach disadvantages. Johnson earns the bronze because he represents how a deeply trained, all-around skill set, built over years of disciplined practice, creates one of the most complete MMA styles ever seen. Silver, George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre earns the silver medal for MMA because he represents one of the most complete and strategically sound fighters the sport has ever produced. As a two-division UFC champion with 9 title defenses, GSP built his entire style around mixing disciplines seamlessly, using a sharp jab to control distance, explosive double legs to dictate where the fight took place, and top control built on precision rather than brute force. His ability to game plan was unmatched. He neutralized specialists by beating them at their own strengths, out-wrestling wrestlers like Josh Koscheck, out-striking strikers like Dan Hardy, in out-grappling grapplers like Matt Hughes. GSP's disciplined footwork, impeccable timing, and ability to blend striking, wrestling, and submissions into a single unified system make him one of the most effective all-around fighters in history. He only misses gold because another athlete represents an even more unpredictable and diverse MMA skill set. But GSP's mastery and championship resume make him the clear silver medal representative for MMA. Gold, John Jones. John Jones became the most complete fighter in MMA through years of training that blended wrestling, striking, and submissions into a single, adaptable system. From a young age, he built a strong wrestling foundation, then layered in kickboxing, clinch work, and grappling in a way that emphasized timing, positioning, and efficiency over brute force. His long reach and stance diversity allowed him to control range, while his wrestling fundamentals, level changes, body lock variations, and top control let him dictate where exchanges happened. In close, he used elbows and frame-based clinch mechanics straight out of Greco-Roman principles, and on the ground, he applied sound grappling fundamentals to maintain control while opening up strikes or submissions. What makes Jones stand out educationally is adaptability. He consistently modified his approach mid-fight based on an opponent's strengths, turning wrestlers into strikers, strikers into grapplers, and specialists into one-dimensional fighters. He earns the gold because he represents the highest expression of well-rounded MMA training, range management, positional awareness, and multidisciplinary technique applied with consistency at the highest levels of competition.